We have many modern-day examples that we can imitate right now. Those examples can help all of us to be prepared, to stand firm, and to remain fully united in the faith. This month's original song, entitled One United People, encourages us to do just that.
We watch the storm clouds gather. We've seen the signs before. The wind of persecution is no stranger to our door. We are one united people, though we come from every land. We are standing firm together, for Jehovah makes us stand. We stand firm together, unafraid we face the crowd, and these hearts that beat within us, we have given to our God.
So yes, we're nearing the end of the May 2021 JW Broadcasting episode, and the episode has been all about, of course, the fulfillment of Bible prophecy and how the persecution of Jehovah's Witnesses does fulfill Bible prophecy in relation to Daniel's prophecy about the King of the North. We started the episode with examples of persecution in Russia, and as we near the end of the episode, and we're not quite at the end yet, granted, but traditionally at sort of the 3/4 mark in these episodes, they have a music video. It's always cringeworthy. In this case, their music video is reminding Jehovah's Witnesses that they are oppressed and persecuted, and therefore must be God's one and only true organization. I've spoken on this subject exhaustively, so I'm very mindful of not repeating myself. What I would say is, yes, it's true that Jehovah's Witnesses have been persecuted throughout their history. It's also true that other religious minorities have been persecuted, and what you never ever see in propaganda like this, which is so clearly intended to leverage and exploit people's suffering for the benefit of an organization, what you never ever see is them talking about other groups being persecuted. You know, what about the Rohingyas? What about the Yazidis? What about the Uyghurs in China? There are any number of very recent or even current examples of religious minorities being persecuted, in many cases far more severely by authoritarian regimes than Jehovah's Witnesses are currently experiencing, say, in Russia. And yet the organization's silent on those examples. They don't want Jehovah's Witnesses to think about this as being a broader issue. They don't want to do anything that might solve the issue in the here and now by asking the question, you know, what can we do as a society to stop this? How can we put pressure on the Chinese government to stop mistreating the Uyghur people? What can we do to show solidarity to the Rohingyas? No. All of this is entirely focused on just Jehovah's Witnesses because they want Jehovah's Witnesses to feel special. And that's why in this month's broadcasting episode, we have not just one persecution music video, but two.
And now, before we sign off, we have a special musical gift video that closely relates to our monthly program theme. You will be encouraged and inspired.
Стоишь у края пропасти, и над тобой сгущает небо тучи, и кажется, что от оков нельзя спастись, не дремлет враг, удобный ищет случай.
So yes, there's a bit of a tender moment there between the armed balaclavaed police officer and the older Jehovah's Witness lady, whose arm he grabs and then tenderly releases. I think these two need a moment by themselves, quite frankly. There's some energy there. But that's apparently not the point. The point is that this balaclavaed police thug who is in the business of rounding up Jehovah's Witnesses, because this isn't a real situation, obviously this is staged, there's a narrative here which we're going to see played out in the rest of the video, where this guy ends up believing that he shouldn't be doing this. He ends up regretting his treatment of Jehovah's Witnesses and ultimately becoming one. That's where all of this is going. But I do just have to comment on this whole weird phenomenon of Jehovah's Witnesses pretending to persecute each other, because that's what we're seeing here. We're seeing presumably Bethelites dressing up in balaclavas and bulletproof vests and handling assault weapons and filming each other in made-up scenarios where Jehovah's Witnesses are being persecuted. You know, why do you need to do this, Watchtower? And this is not the only example of Jehovah's Witnesses faking persecution in music videos.
Been faithful, you have not wavered. You looked to Jehovah through all the storms.
Let's keep building our faith so we can be strong. We will not give up or give in. His word as our guide.
Why do they need to do this? This is a serious issue. I take this issue seriously as an ex-Jehovah's Witness. I am against the persecution of Jehovah's Witnesses. I am against what's going on in Russia. And it's because I take this seriously that I find this, quite frankly, grotesque. The fact that they need to fake their own persecution in music videos to the extent where they're routinely putting assault weapons in the hands of Bethelites and getting them to fake these situations where witnesses are getting rounded up. Why is it that the facts aren't enough, Watchtower? Why is it that just simply talking about real stories and real cases and real people, why are those stories not enough so that you need to fake stories that haven't happened or create these dramatizations or portrayals that didn't happen, doesn't that somewhat diminish the urgency and relevancy of the real stories, of the real tales of persecution, where Jehovah's Witnesses are suffering and being mistreated because of their faith? Why is it that those stories aren't enough so that you need to produce multiple music videos with fake persecution?
Смотри, лишь верой можно разглядеть на небесах все воинство готово. Под зов трубы прольют судебные огни, и навсегда забудем мы и узы и оковы. Мы с тобой веру сохрани и не отступи ни на шаг сейчас, Иегова с тобой. Скоро новый мир, близок этот день и час. Близок этот день и час.
I've said it many times before. What is this? What is this religion? It's almost completely unrecognizable from the organization I remember following as a Jehovah's Witness. It feels almost with each passing year, this religion is getting more cheesy, more fake, more synthetic, and more obviously manipulative. I mean, what was that monstrosity of a song? It sounded to my ear like maybe Russia's entry for Eurovision. It would get nul point from me, I have to say. But they really want us to contemplate this situation where one of these police thugs in Russia becomes one of Jehovah's Witnesses and actually quits doing his persecuting in the midst of a raid. So he first has that tender moment with the old lady, and then he sees the little girl. And seeing the little girl also gives him second thoughts. You know, it's one thing to have second thoughts about being a Russian police thug who oppresses religious minorities. It's another thing entirely for you to dedicate your life to serving a group in America, a group of 8 dudes who meet every Wednesday at their lakeside retreat. That's what we're seeing portrayed here, to the extent where he turns up in paradise. And there's the fruit table. Of course, it wouldn't be paradise, would it? If you didn't have Jehovah's Witnesses sat around a fruit table, which is what you're supposed to do in paradise. You're supposed to have picnics and sit at fruit tables and eat fruit. That is when you're not working in the clothes factories that you would need in order for these people to be walking around wearing nicely made clothes. In the case of the guys, of course, it has to be cream slacks. That's the standard JW casual look. It got decided on in the 1950s, and it's been there ever since, to the point where you can't wear jeans in paradise. Has to be the 1950s cream slacks. I would have really liked, by the way, to really bring this whole narrative full circle, I would have really liked this guy entering paradise to reconnect with that older sister. I think it would have been really touching if she'd have been there at the fruit table and you'd have seen like a close-up of them holding each other's hands and then maybe walking off into the sunset together. I think that would have been a really touching conclusion to the music video. But wow, it's just multiple levels of cringe, isn't it? As with any Jehovah's Witness music video. It's just that in this month's broadcast, for some reason, we need two, both on the same subject of persecution. Because if there's one message that the governing body wants Jehovah's Witnesses to take away from this month's broadcast, it's that you are special, you are being persecuted, these are the last days. Stay loyal, stay busy, stay terrified with the assumption that the world is ending, and the only way you can survive is by being a follower of the governing body.